Hi there, I'm Stan Baker, one of the hosts of Circle Forum, along with Shelley Steele and Steve Young. Supporting others as a school principal while maintaining your own mental health is no small feat. Our guest again this episode is Dean MacInnis, principal of Sir John Franklin High School in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. It's a balancing act of the principal's own well-being with the heavy emotional and professional demands of supporting staff, students, and the school community.
This podcast is brought to you by the word balance, from the Latin meaning two scales. The meaning of balance has been broadened over time to include more figurative concepts of equilibrium, harmony, and proportion. It's a shift in meaning that signifies fairness beyond physical objects. The concept of balancing work and life dates back to the 1970s and 1980s, when the term was first popularized in response to the increasing demands of dual-income households and the rise of corporate culture. Some professionals advocate for alternative terms like work-life integration or work-life harmony, emphasizing fluidity and the personal nature of achieving balance.
Check out our website, www.restorative.ca, for some simple yet profound restorative questions that can help you, as a principal, maintain your own wellness. Let's join your host, Shelley, Steve, and me, Stan. I wanted to ask about mental health of principals. That was another topic that we had touched on a little bit. Yeah. What kinds of things are you noticing in the principals that you're talking to and with in terms of mental health and wellness?
I would say very consistently, I hear the same message, and that's they're so busy taking care of the kids and the staff, they're going to get time to take care of themselves, which is a recipe for not a great result. On one side of it, and I've had lots of conversations certainly with my colleagues about this, is it's really good that we've had a climate change and a cultural change where staff certainly can feel comfortable to come into my office, shut the door, and tell me that they're struggling, or this is causing some, I would say, anxiety with them. And it's great that we've got to that point, because it is a little more open. It's a little more public to talk about mental health and the things that can keep you healthy and the things that people are dealing with. That's a big thing. That the one side is because a lot of administrators have really good relationships with their staffs, that staff are coming to them. And I would say even kids, if you're have relationships, like I've been lucky enough to be in our community for 33 years. My kids grew up here. My wife teaches in the system. So we know many kids and families that kids will come in and talk to the administrators, but they're also confiding on a challenging level. If we're doing that all the time as administrators, something's got to give. Mm-hmm. Something has to give. You have staff coming to you, telling you, hey man, I need a few days off. I'm going through a divorce. Where if you had said to me that, I'm going to blame COVID for a lot of things. Prior to COVID, I don't know. I would really have to think. I can think of one staff member honestly coming to me and getting that in depth of what they were dealing with. It really did not occur at the rate in which it occurs now. And there is a positive to that. I wouldn't want you to misinterpret me, but that's a lot of information. So the information that we have in the past about our school, I would say was surface level. I would describe it as surface level. We are way beyond surface level now. It isn't just my 85 kids in my pool of 600 that I know about and concerned about. Okay, I would say right now that number is, of my 660 kids, is probably closer to 300, probably half the population. And I would say if I look at my staff of 72, I bet you I have some, I would say I would never capture them as concerns. I'd say open conversations with at least a third of them. So they're sharing good information because they need to. It's part of their process and their healing. But then, okay, what am I doing to navigate that information?
And I'm guessing that hasn't kept up.
That right? I am a terrible example.
Well, Danny, because that is not your training and your background about what do I do with that kind of information about people's pain. I don't know what to do with that. And where do I go with that? And who can listen and mentor me with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a gap.
I often have lots of conversations, especially if an administrator calls me, they're struggling with stuff, or even friends in town. I'm like, you got to have your thing. That's for me. I like to work out and I play lots of hockey and I watch lots of hocky. That's for
Yeah,
me. That's my outlet.
I can see the Leafs banners behind you there.
Oh,
Yeah, we saw that.
I have lots of that. So I'm a sports guy, but that's my thing. I watch hockey every night on TV. I play a couple times a week. We have a gym in here. I will come to work in the evenings, but I'll go to try to work out, even if it's a quick run for 15 minutes. For me, and I would tell you, my wife knows that. So I'm lucky enough to have a partner that picks up the signs in my mannerisms and comments. Hey, you need to go do
go
something.
For a run.
Because she knows. Now, sometimes I'm lucky enough, and I'm sure many of us are, we have a partner where we can let things off our chest and you feel very confident, not judging those things. But the challenge is if we don't do that. It's like going back to the conversation before, we talked about debriefing. You need to debrief. You just have to. So finding your thing is really important. I think part of the whole process too is that we also got to re-examine the amount of things on our list. So when you are having those conversations, which you absolutely want to have, if you also don't got 15 other things hanging over your head, you would have time to navigate that information. I think part of it is, and I am being very honest, that we need to look at, I'll steal Simon Breakspeare's new book, prune back some of those things because we can't handle that list. That to-do list is too much. We're not making lasting impact and we're not keeping healthy. And if we don't turn around and re-examine that to-do list, we need to figure it out, because who's going to want to do their job? Who are we going to have the energy to mentor? It's such a spin-off. You got to find your personal thing. And I would advise everybody, it's because work will always exist. That to-do list will always exist. You'll take the 2 things off today and I'll add 2 more before I leave at 5 o'clock today. That's that. And you have to be okay with that. The challenge is, who's ever been trained to do that? Who's ever had those discussions?
And who's asking about your mental health as a principal?
You're absolutely nobody. Like, to be quite frank, nobody. Like we run, it's called Strengthening Teachers Practices. So it's like STIP time, we call it. It's where they have some personal time at various times throughout the year to work on things. So during STIP, there's no class. Teachers are working on whatever, assessment, report cards, etc. I don't have personal STIP. Guess what happens on those days? All the teachers that need to see me come and see me.
Supporting others. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's no personal STIP for me unless I don't show up for work. Like I decide to work from home, let's say. That's for a lot of, I would say, leadership people, that's a difficult thing to do. Right. And not that and you know what, to be honest, I probably should do that. I probably need to make a conscious decision that every so often I work from home to finish those evaluations. And I say to my 2 VPs, hey guys, I'm booking off Wednesday morning. I'm going to stay home. I'll be in at noon. You know what? We probably do need to do more of that, because I can't prune back that list unless I do those things that definitely need to get done. But then those other things that we're asked to do, I also need to have discussions about, hey, can that be another day? Can I delay doing that? Can I delegate that? Can I dump it? Because it seems like, and maybe it's because we're a smaller institution, that the district's down the street, the government's down the street, they're right there. They rely on schools in Yellowknife in particular. Certainly we're the biggest high school in the territory. Oh, how are they doing things at Sir John? Let's contact Dean and let's have a discussion, right? That just adds more to the plate. Then how do you do those evaluations? How do you take care of yourself? Challenging.
The other thing I want to just add about taking care of yourself, again, you're hearing, as you said, you're hearing information that you haven't had to hear before. And there's good sides to that, but it can be too much. And so knowing when it's too much, what does that look like? And who do I go to for my own wellness around? It's about debriefing. And because there's a lot of people carrying some very heavy stuff out there, but now they have shared it with you. They have slimed you, is a term that we've used, right? So now you're wearing it. You're wearing it too.
Yep.
That's good for them. But if that's the fourth person today that's presented you with stuff that's way too much for me, but you're not going to tell them that. You're just going to continue to wear it. So what do you do with that? And again, I think that needs to be thought through. It's that we had in our last podcast. It's not if that happens, it's when that happens. So what are you going to do for that? Yeah.
I mean,
that takes planning.
That takes planning, and it takes commitment, and you got to say to yourself, it's got to be done. And that's the difference is you could have those fourth conversation. It's 2:00 and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 2:00. I haven't eaten lunch and I still have to prep for the staff meeting. Right? You get caught in that by putting out all these fires. At the end of the day, you got to say to yourself, I got to take a step back. It's someone else's turn to fight the fire. And that's maybe where we do rely more on a VPs, whether it's a debriefing session with them or whether it's I need to shut the door to reset.
Yeah. It's the cumulative effect of hearing painful stories, right?
Oh,
and then you're not equipped. You're not equipped for that. So what am I doing with this? And beyond your duties for your own mental health, what are you doing with this information? Yeah.
Because if you don't, all of a sudden, like you think about it, if you don't do that, eventually, and thanks to my wife, she'll point it out to me. But it's the kind of thing, if you don't do that, you're gonna take those emotions, and I'd say that information is going to be put out. You're not going to talk about the information, but you're going to turn around and send that information out, and people are going to pick up your vibe that he's down the dumps, that he's ticked off, that he's it creates such a negativity. You just don't want to go there. You really don't.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation. And what I found interesting is we started off by talking about isolation and thinking it was because of geography. But that's not what came through. Yes, you may be isolated by geography, but that's not the isolation that is the most troubling or the most difficult piece. It's the isolation in the job and not having the people around you to support you doing the job. So I heard that we need support, and the person needs to take initiative to build their people skills when needed and be able to take on the difficult pieces. And again, the piece around your knowing your values and beliefs and using it as your guiding compass came through over and over again. And then you'll feel more solid in your decisions. And finally, how to plan how to take care of yourself, because you're going to need that. Yeah.
You're going to need it.
Yeah.
Dean talks about finding your thing, the hobby, physical activity, or time away that helps you balance work and your mental health as a principal. The conversation with Dean underscores the isolation that's inherent in leadership roles and the need for principals to develop support networks and delegate responsibilities. No one's asking you about this, so be intentional about asking others for support. Find out more about our work with restorative leadership and some very practical how-tos for the many stories you encounter at your office door at www.restorative.ca. It's tough to set up supports for yourself when no one else is looking out for you, so be intentional and ask for the sake of your own mental wellness as a principal.